What is up, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Afan, and today we're going to break down episode 8 of season 1 of the show called House of the Dragon. The episode is titled Lord of the Tides. Now, before I jump into the breakdown, though, I have done a reaction. I actually just finished it, and the reaction will be on the channel very soon. Link should be in the description whenever it is up. Now then, let's get into the breakdown. A lot happened in this one. A lot of drama, a lot of politics, a lot of games. A new challenger came into the mix, although that challenger did not last too long. So let's start from the top. We started with Vaymond and Rhaenys talking about the succession, talking about Corlys. So Corlys might die very soon, or that's what, I mean, if they're talking about successions and stuff like that, then his conditions is such that he might not survive for too long. Now, the same thing happened to Viserys. His condition was such that we thought he wouldn't survive too long, but he's still here. Or so I think, or maybe not after this episode. But yeah, so you never know. But he's not in a great condition. It's been 6 years. We learned that right from the get-go. Vaymond makes a case for himself because he's the true blood of the Velaryon, and as we all know, Jason, Luke, and Joffrey are not. They have Targaryen blood, but not Velaryon blood. And so he says, well, I have pure blood. I'm true Velaryon, and because I am the only one, the second one after Corlys, since Corlys is going to pass, then I should be the next one to sit on the Driftmark throne, be Lord of the Tides. But the problem is that Lord Corlys wanted Lucerys to be the Lord of the Tides, and so Rhaenys reminds him of that. Then they talk about how the king no longer sits on the throne, it is the queen. And so then we learn later on what that means. The king's health has deteriorated a lot. He's basically a zombie. How is he alive? I'm glad he's alive, but at the same time, to see your parent or brother or husband or any loved one in that condition, that must be devastating. So in a way, I'm happy that he's still alive, but also I'm like, well, it's so painful, one, for him, and second, for everybody else that love him, to see him in this condition. I don't know what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Am I saying that I would rather him be dead than alive? I don't think so, but it sounds like it, don't you think? Regardless, Daemon and Rhaenyra makes their way to King's Landing to meet with the king to get the news about Lord Corlys, the sea snake, and his health as well. So they're going to make petitions for the position, and so they make their way to King's Landing. They're greeted there by, I forget his name, that bald dude from the other episode when Rhaenyra was getting birth and she was going up the stairs and that dude meets her there. That dude. And no one else. Not the queen, not the king, not the princess and princesses and all the good stuff. All right, there is a pretty clear message of what Alicent and company intends. Alicent and Vaymond throughout this time has been going back and forth, we can assume, because, well, one, Vaymond mentions that there is no longer the king on the throne, there's a queen. And then later on, we obviously see her welcoming Vaymond, and she does not do that to Rhaenyra. Another thing that is to be noted is that when Vaymond is coming in, the guards around him, they have sigils of House Hightower, the flame on the high tower. And also then later on in the council, we see Otto, Alicent, and Vaymond there and talking. So that's another sign right there that those two houses have aligned forces and they are working together. I love Daemon throughout this episode. He's just himself. He's just so careless. Those little smiles and smirks that he does when people are talking, in like complicated language when they're not speaking plainly. He's like, bro, come on. We all know what you're saying. Like, shut up. He calls out the queen as well for not attending to them when they arrived. And that is when we see King Viserys and his health and how much he has worsened. He doesn't even recognize Rhaenyra and Daemon. When they meet him, they have to a couple of times tell him, hey, I'm Rhaenyra, your daughter. I'm Daemon, your brother. So the guy is like in a very bad shape, and you can see that as well. And it's not just physical, it's also mental as well, because he keeps forgetting who's who, something that happens towards the end, which I think is going to be very important, where he forgets who's who yet again. Alicent gets news of Aegon and what he is up to now, or rather what his penis is up to now. Aegon seems like the kind of character, and that's how he was in the previous one as well. He's kind of like Daemon in the way that he does not care all that much. He does what he wants. He's careless. He does not care for the throne. He doesn't want to challenge anyone. He has said it flat out to Allison. He said it. I don't want the throne. I don't want to challenge Rhaenyra. I don't want to challenge her heirs. I don't want to challenge anyone. Just let me be. But Allison has this idea in her mind that, well, you might not challenge her, but she will definitely challenge you by killing you, by existing simply. You are a threat to her, just like Otto told her. And so because of that, she's very harsh on Aegon. She is extremely harsh, actually. I mean, in this one, she actually pretty much says it. You are no son of mine. And I think the reason why she says that is because Aegon is doing things that Rhaenyra is doing. If you think about it, they're kind of similar in that way, going around, sleeping around with servants, just doing whatever or whoever. That's what Allison thinks that Rhaenyra is doing. Although if you think about it, Rhaenyra didn't really do that. Rhaenyra, from what I can tell, is just with one person. That was, I forgot his name, the strong dude. But that was outside of wedlock, right? Their marriage. So, and also, if you remember, there was that one scene where the Maester brings the moon tea to Rhaenyra, and she's told about them, then she has to bring the moon tea to Aegon, or Diana rather. So she basically is doing all the things that she hates about Rhaenyra, and she's doing that to protect Aegon and, you know, the rumors and all that. So she is basically being made a hypocrite. She's doing the things that she hates about Rhaenyra, the things that is creating this civil war or whatever between these two families. And so that's why she hits Aegon. And honestly, if you're going to rape people, I think you deserve a bit more than just one slap. So I'm kind of glad she does. I think she should have done more, but I don't think that is why she did it, which is kind of sad. I think the reason why she did it was because she realized that, ooh, I'm doing the very thing that I despise about Rhaenyra, do you know what I mean? Or my son, rather, is doing the very thing. Another thing we learned, Rhaenyra is currently pregnant, and she's had 2 more children. One is named Viserys, one is named Aegon. Aegon is the son of Alicent, so I thought she might not be too happy about that name being given to her son as well. That becomes quite confusing as well. But then there's Viserys as well. That's her father, and so I guess that makes sense. People do that often. Viserys Jr., do you know what I mean? Or the second or third or whatever. But then Aegon is also a name of their grandparents, great-grandparents, you know, so on and so forth. It's a very common name. We know a certain someone later in Game of Thrones as well, whose name is Aegon. We'll talk about that a little later on towards the end, because it becomes very important. So the petitions start finally for who's going to be the Lord of the Tides, Lord of the Drift mark. And so they all make their cases, and then King Viserys, like a straight-up G, or should I say Z, because he's a zombie. No. He makes his entrance. There's such a wholesome, heartwarming moment between him. That whole sequence was just, they smashed it when he's walking, kind of struggling, but he's keeping himself strong. He's a strong boy, you know, and he's walking up the stairs and he doesn't want anybody's help. And then his crown falls and Daemon comes and helps him, and he's like, come on, bro, you've got this. And it's such a great moment. And then he sits on the throne and he puts the crown on his head, and in that moment, it just makes you think that it could have been so much different. These two really, really care about each other. They love each other. We've seen these kind of moments before, but due to politics and just bullshit, really, they've fallen apart over time, and they've built resentment towards each other. But yeah, that sequence was just, it nearly made me cry. It made me so emotional. It was so well done. And so then he's like, all right, what are we talking about here? Corlys said Lucerys is going to be my heir. Okay, he's going to be the one. He's going to be the Lord. Why is this even happening? And if it is, then let's talk to the one person that matters here more than the others, which is Rhaenys. Why no one has asked her? And then Rhaenys comes in and she just says it like, yeah, that's what my husband wanted. That's what I want as well. I back him. You know, he's my husband. I'm here. Whatever he says, I back him. David Beckham. Bend it like Beckham. Then Vaemond, you know, pulls Sir Kristen Cole, gets very sour about it, and starts talking some stuff that is, even if it is not breaking the law, it's still things that you just shouldn't say. Like, it's just straight up mean. And Daemon, like a straight up G, just goes, no you don't. Gone. Donezo. You just broke the law. He's just egging him on. Aegon him on at that point. He's like, go on, say it, you little. You know what I mean? And he's just waiting for him. And that's what I was saying in the previous one as well. With Daemon on Rhaenyra's side, I doubt anyone would challenge Rhaenyra and her children's blood. And if they do, well, you will end up with 2 faces instead of 1. So that is put to rest. I thought there might be some sort of backlash from that side, but I don't think there will be, because Lord Corlys himself have very publicly said it. Everybody knows that he has said that, and also Rhaenys is throwing her support behind Jace and Luke, Rhaenyra's children, basically. So I don't think there will be any backlash from that side, the Valerians, basically. King wants a dinner for the 2 families, bring them all together, and they have the dinner, and he, pretty much like he has said from the very first episode, he wants peace, he wants everybody to be together, he wants everybody to be peaceful, loving, and caring towards each other. And he says that, he's like, come on, man, this is my dying wish. I'm pretty much gone. Can you just give me that? Finally. And finally, he gets that. There's a little jabs thrown here and there from the kids, but, you know, it's whatever. Generally, you know, Rhaenyra makes a toast, so does Alicent, and it seems like they're getting along really well, and it seems wholesome, it seems fun, and then the children take it a step too far, and something happens. Aemond gets up, he makes a toast, and very clever, very strategic. That guy looks very important to me. First off, it's been 6 years, but it seems like he's grown by 20 years. Also, he looks like the Witcher from the Witcher video games. Geralt of Rivia from not the Netflix series, but the video game. And very cleverly wording, you know, insults. And he gets physical with the 2 strong boys as well. And as soon as Daemon gets up and confronts him, Aemond just walks away. Now, I don't think Aemond cannot take on Daemon, or Daemon's better or whatever. I don't know that. I don't, you know, that's not what I'm trying to say. But it seems like Aemond was okay with picking on the 2 strong boys, because they were, let's be honest, very little than them, and therefore not as strong despite what he calls them. But as soon as Daemon comes forward, he's like, oh, okay, I guess I'll walk away. So it seems like Aemond is quite clever, smart. He's picking his opponents well. He knows that Daemon, there's a very good chance that Daemon will fuck him up. So he steps aside and he said, all right, I'll walk away. Also, Aemond is one, and we saw this in the previous episode as well, he cares about tradition, he cares about family, and he cares about duty and honor and stuff like that. He's kind of like Alicent, so I think he will be a good player, I guess, in this game for Alicent, because he I think he gets it, whereas Aegon, I don't think that guy gets it. I think whether he gets it or not, he doesn't care, is what I'm trying to say. And so that's why Alicent is not very happy with him. And she's just, whenever we see an exchange between Alicent and Aegon, she's always scolding him or hitting him or something like that. And that shows that Aegon might be a problem for Alicent in the long run. And that is a problem, because Aegon is, if Rhaenyra is not going to be the heir, then it's going to be Aegon, not Aemond, which I think is going to be a problem. It's like what they said, you know, whenever a Targaryen is born, the gods flip a coin. I think they've flipped a coin there. I think Aegon and Aemond both, I think the coins are being flipped there. They're both weird in different ways, but they're both like kind of out there, do you know what I mean? Like one thing's rape is okay, like that's, oh, it's harmless, do you know what I mean? And the other is just thinking about killing people and being physical. But like when he was a child, he had the rock in his hand and he was talking about how he was going to crush all the bastards and all that, you know what I mean? And there were little children that he was fighting with. And then there's a final interaction between Alicent and Rhaenyra where it seems like they're getting along, and Alicent's like, you know what, you just arrived, come on, just spend some more time with me. And Rhaenyra's like, you know what, all right, you're right, let me drop my kids off quickly on the back of my dragon, because they don't seem to be getting along, which honestly is your fault, Alicent. I mean, you did this to them. They were fine before. I mean, they weren't fine. They were obviously fighting, and the kids are going to fight. That's nothing new there. But now they literally hate each other, and that's because of you. That's because of you whispering, you know, this hatred in their ears. And then she's like, I'll be back, and we can then talk and be like old times. You know, they were really good friends, and they've fallen apart. Well, they've really fallen apart. And then Viserys is taken to his bed, and there he starts talking to Alicent, thinking she's Rhaenyra, says, you know how you asked me about the Song of Ice and Fire? And she's like, well, what are you talking about? I never asked you about that. true, she never did. It was Rhaenyra. So again, that's his mental capacity kind of fading away. And then he talks about Aegon and the prophecy and the prince that was promised. And I believe, and they've mentioned this before as well, is passed from prince to prince or prince to prince, basically heir to heir, I should say. And so I don't think a lot of people know about it. And so that's why Alicent does not know about it. And she takes it in a different way. She's like, I understand. And I'm like, I don't think you understand. She takes it as, he's talking about Prince Aegon, their child, being the one that is promised, the prince that is promised. He's the one, and it must be done, and you have to make it happen. She's like, I understand. And in that moment, I just think back to that moment where Alicent and Rhaenyra got along, and I'm like, well, they just started to get along, and now I don't think they're going to get along very much, because now she thinks Aegon is the prince that was promised, and he's supposed to be on the throne, not Rhaenyra, and that is going to be a problem yet again. We're going to reset all the progress we made at the dinner table. So while Viserys made huge decisions that were in favor of Rhaenyra, he made one little tiny mistake there at the end, and I think that is going to further break the families apart. You also see, I forgot her name, but the lady that was with Daemon, the lady under the sheets with Daemon. She's it's good to see, because one, she's alive. Two, she's not just alive, she is thriving. She's doing really well. And third, she still got her position as the spider or the whisper, whatever, you know that. That's very good to see. Another important detail to note was this whole time Alicent has the 7-pointed star, which is the symbol of the faith of the seven. And they also have symbols of the faith around King's Landing, and particularly in the castle, particularly the star. And if you recall the events that happened in Game of Thrones, the faith is very much against the actions that Rhaenyra is taking. So bastards, sex outside of your marriage, illegitimate children, which is bastards, stuff like that is not accepted. Being gay, right? That's Laenor. Stuff like that is very much not accepted in the faith of the seven. So Alicent being more accepting of the faith and allowing it into their home and embracing it, I think that might not just be a thing like she's faithful or that's her religion or whatever. I think it might be a political play as well. That might be a move against Rhaenyra to weaken her, because now she has more people on her side saying, look, these things are not allowed, what you're doing. Marrying your uncle, incest, right? I don't think they would be in favor of that either. That's another play I think that she's making. And not only that, but she's removing the Targaryen stuff, which honestly I think is going to backfire, because the only reason the Hightowers are in any sort of power or even in the conversation of being on the throne is because of the Targaryen. So if you undermine the Targaryen name, I don't think that's going to work out too well for you. But yeah, the game has begun. Well, it had begun a long time ago, but things are getting very interesting. What will happen the next few episodes? Did Viserys die there at the end? It seemed like he died. He said no more, and he was crying as well, and he was very much struggling. I think he might have, and I think we might open, much like that other episode, the next episode might open on Viserys' funeral. But yeah, so let me know what you thought of this episode. It was a very interesting episode. This was my breakdown, sort of review, sort of discussion of this episode. There will be a reaction to this episode very soon on the channel as well. Link in the description. Check it out. Thank you for watching this video. Do drop a like if you liked the video. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Until then, have a nice